All right, welcome to the first ever video here on this channel. This channel is mainly going to be dedicated to Western politics. That's going to be Europe and the United States, as well as like Australia, if they ever become or their next election. But obviously, if something important happens around the globe, we'll cover it. I might do a video on the Russia right now, what's going on over there, with the potential murder of Alexei Navalny. But we'll see what happens there. But today we're going to be talking about Germany, as you might be able to recognize the names of these parties. And the CDU has really been the favorite, as you can see in this chart. They've been, what is this, like 20 points above all of the other parties all of this year, and into, this goes back to like April of last year over here. So for over a year now, they've been so much ahead, but over the last two or 3 months or so, they've come down a lot. They've come from 37% ish to 27%. So, but the main focus of this video is going to be on what you see right here, the last few days, what has happened. So, starting with the Greens chose their most popular candidate for chancellor. They chose I keep forgetting her name, but they chose their most moderate, most electable candidate. The Greens were smart. The CDU, on the other hand, chose their least popular candidate. The CSU party's nominee was actually more popular in the polls than Armin Laschet. However, the CDU said that they want Laschet to be their nominee. I remember something. I'm not sure if this was like an official statement or not, but I remember hearing something about the CDU saying that they needed to protect themselves, so they chose their own nominee over the Bavarian sister parties. So that's certainly interesting, and it might show voters some level of corruption on the CDU's part, which might be contributing to this decline. Now, it is important to note that these events only happened a few days ago, actually. So we might not be seeing the full effect of this in the polls. It is also important to note that the Greens released their nomination earlier than the CDU did. So this little bump we see here might be the nomination bump. As you can see, back in August of last year, August of 2020, the SPD had a sort of similar bump after they announced their chancellor candidate. So yeah, keep that in mind. But it is important to note that, or to emphasize that Green might be being rewarded here for choosing the popular candidate, and we might not have seen the full extent of the CDU being punished for choosing the unpopular candidate in a somewhat corrupt way against the will of the people being polled, at least, because the Bavarian nominee was somewhat more popular than Armin Laschet. It is also important to note that this is, I don't believe it's set in stone whatsoever, this nomination of Laschet, and if the CDU starts to go way underwater of Green, they might change their mind. But obviously that would also show instability, and typically voters don't like instability. It's also important to note that we might be seeing a coalition of the semi-leftists here, because once Green started to go up, the SPD started to go down. So that if this is a trend of the SPD going down, going to Green, I think that's really good for the chances of the CDU not becoming of Armin Laschet not becoming the next chancellor of Germany. So Important to watch here. If the leftists, or if the left continues to coalesce around green, I think the CDU is really in trouble here, because basically at this point green is going to gain a lot of seats. Let me show you guys here. I think it's on this page. Yeah, let it load for a second. The Greens only have. Why is it not loading? Sorry. The Greens only have so many. Oh, here it is. Only have 66 seats in the Bundestag, but they actually have less than the Link. Tell me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I probably am. They have less than the Link and the Free Democratic Party, both of those. But in the polls, the Greens are polling. What is that? 12 points better than FDP and 15 points better than the Link. So it's really important. The Greens are going to explode massively. I think the major takeaways from the election, even if this were the result, even if, well, I don't know why I did that. Even if this right here is the result, 26-23 among the major parties, people are going to be talking about the fall of the CDU, because they used to be such a massive party. Even this year, getting 40% of the, or last year getting 40% of the vote in June of 2020, and now we're in April of 2021, and they only have 26. So that's a fall of around, what was that, like 14 ish points. And in a somewhat percentage based democracy like Germany, 14 points is a lot of seats. As an American, and I imagine that a lot of the people watching this do live in the States, because I am speaking English. It's an English speaking language, or English speaking channel. I'm sorry. I do imagine that quite a bit of my viewers are just politicals from the U.S. And looking at it from a U.S. perspective, it's still the CDU is in the lead. So what? But it's really different when you have a representative democracy like that. Those 14 points correlates to 14% of seats. So basically what I'm saying, the Greens are going to gain quite a few seats, and that's going to be one of the major takeaways from this election. And another major takeaway is going to be the fall of the SDP. I personally don't think they'll have anywhere close to this number, 152. I really don't think that's going to happen. And I think the CDU is obviously going to fall. I think a lot of CDU voters are going to stay at home because they nominated Laschet over the Bavarian nominee, because they don't like Laschet. He's he was the most unpopular candidate of the two nominees. So I want to show you guys this as well. This really just is a different way of showing you guys how steep the CDU's fall has been. This was 15 days ago. They're at 27%, and now they've fallen. What is this? Sorry, this one's hard to control. 24.4% 2 days ago, on Friday, which I assume is the last day they updated this. And this is the approval rating, not voting intention. So, the approval of the CDU has really collapsed after what I assume voters see as a corrupt nomination process. And there's even one poll that shows the Greens even more popular than the CDU are now, or were back in this little bump here, April around 10th. So, and as you can see, the Greens haven't become more unpopular in what is this date, since July, I think it was, of 2020. Sorry, this chart's really hard to control. So the Greens have been on in a somewhat steady rise, um, a very fast-paced rise since February. During the month of March, the Greens really increased, and I do think that this it might not increase the popularity of the Greens so much, but it's certainly going to decrease the popularity of the CDU after what they did to nominate Armin Laschet. So keep that in mind. I think I had something else that I wanted to show you guys as well. What was it? So I talked about the coalescing of the Greens and SPD, but it is important to mention that I don't think there's going to be a Green coalition with Link, SPD, and Green. I just think there's much diversity between particularly Link and Green. Green is somewhat a somewhat centrist party, economically at least. So I don't think Green is going to have a completely leftist government. I think they're going to need the CDU. I think it's going to be a CDU Green coalition. But it is important to note that these equal 49%. So if this were to be the election results, they need to agree on a third party to add in. And I think that's going to be really difficult in the coalition talks, because I couldn't imagine I couldn't imagine how difficult that would be to bring in a third member, when most of the other parties are either way to the left or way to the right of one of these parties, or even both of them. So it is important to note that these numbers do not equal 50. So that's very difficult for whoever wins to make a coalition out of this, out of these numbers. So let me see if I can think of anything else that I wanted to say in this video. This is going to be the first election in, I think, 15 years that Angela Merkel has not been the nominee for the CDU. So, and she's incredibly popular in the country of Germany. So I think I think the polls, as time gets closer and people are going to realize, hey, it's not Angela, especially as Armin Laschet goes out there and starts to campaign, people are going to realize it's not her. So I think that's also going to hurt the CDU because of how popular she was, and the fact that she isn't the nominee. And I think the Green candidate, I forgot her name. Let me Google it real quick because I feel bad for not knowing her name. Green Germany candidate, Annalena Baerbock, because the Green candidate might remind people of Angela Merkel, because she is somewhat popular. This is Bloomberg. Because she is somewhat popular. I don't know if she's more popular than Laschet. It's really hard to find polls for Germany, like approval polls of individual people. If anyone knows of a source that has those, it would be amazing if you could comment it down below. But yeah, Annalena Baerbock. The Greens, it is important to note. Oh, that's what I want to show you guys. Okay. There has been 2 polls in the last, 5 days that have shown the Greens in the lead. And you might be like, okay, well, let me show you the polls before that, going all the way back to the very, very beginning of this year, December 2021 to January 4th. The Greens haven't led in a single poll until April 20th. And I'm not entirely sure about the dates here, but this might be, here, let me look here. So the Greens, or this article at least, was written 6 days ago. So I assume this okay, the Greens, it seems, announced their candidate on the 19th, and the CDU announced theirs on the 20th. So these polls, this date in particular was when the CDU announced Laschet as their nominee, and I think that's just a really appropriate time for this poll to be released, because I really do think the population is going to lash back at the CDU CSU coalition for choosing Laschet um, in this thing. And even I think this poll in particular, it was taken from April 15th, 20 to the 21st. So I assume before the nomination took place, all of these people that were polled on the 15th and 16th and 17th and even the 18th, I assume these people were going usual, like 28 points to the CDU and 23 points to Green, to the extent that the CDU only lost one point from their average the last few polls here. But then the Greens announced, they're like, okay, the Greens are trying to be elected. They're showing they're ready. They chose their most liked candidate. And then the very next day, the CDU chooses its most unpopular candidate. And they're like, oh my goodness, like, what are you doing? We don't want him. We wanted the other guy. So after the 20th, this poll shows the Greens in the lead. What I'm trying to say in summary, this poll shows the Greens in the lead, and it doesn't even have the full effect of what happened in Germany over the 19th, 20th, and even the 21st, as things started to come out. And this poll, it's a singular poll. It was taken on the 23rd, which I think is really important. This lets people settle their minds about what happened. And this was 3 days after the CDU announced, and the CDU only has a lead of 1. So I think this poll is the most up to date. Obviously, it's the most recent poll, but just because none of these other polls completely have voters' thoughts in mind, but this gives them 3 days, and this is such a competitive race for first place right now. And it is also important to note, again, that the Green plus CDU number does not equal 50. Now, I'm not entirely sure that the percentage that they won votes would equal the percentage of seats they have. I don't think so, but that's a 3% difference. So I don't know if they'll be able to overcome that. So I think they're gonna have to, Green in particular is gonna have to get more support from the SPD. The SPD has shown in these polls that they can fall to 13, 14%. So the Greens going to have to make that more consistent if they want to win. These 4 points that or 4 of these 5 points that the Green has lost between, or the difference that the Green has between these two polls, can be explained with higher poll results of the SPD. So it's really important for the Greens, in my opinion, to try to steal some of these SPD voters. And the CDU, I'm not entirely sure what they can do, try to get their old voters back. Really, if they can get Angela Merkel to talk amazingly about Laschet, maybe that will help them. But it's going to be really difficult to tell what's going to happen. Obviously, I will keep you guys apprised of the situation on this channel. This is going to be one of the major things I talk about in the coming months, just because how important Germany is to the CDU and the Greens. and I am going to, well, I shouldn't say I am going to, but I think I'm going to make a Bundestag land map. If you want to do this on your own, yapms.com has a Bundestag map that you can go in and do on your own. Scroll down to Germany if I can find it. There it is. Sorry for the ad. And then you can do it on your own. So I think I'm gonna do this eventually, just to show you guys what my prediction for the land seats are gonna be. If there's an official term for those, also let me know. If you haven't told by my accent, I think I said it earlier in the video, but I am from the States, and I live here currently. So my knowledge might be a little limited, but most of the news sources I listen to, like I listen to Euronews twice a day, and I have what is it? DW News, their podcast I listen to, as well as the Politico European podcast. So I'm fairly up to date on European politics. Just sometimes the words don't really come to me for what things are actually called. I think I said Parliament a few minutes ago instead of Bundestag, but it's fine. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts about this, and if I said anything incorrectly, please correct me in the comments. I'm going to try to get better at that. So with that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you next time.